Hi, everybody. I wanted to share this reflection with you during this time of this pandemic and this time of isolation and social distancing. Um, if you know any Jesuits, you might know the term finding God in all things. That's a very Jesuit idea. And as a sister of St. Joseph, we know that very well because we were founded by Jean-Pierre Madai, who was a Jesuit priest in 1650. In fact, our community was founded just by 6 women that wanted to come forth and really do something in a terrible time in France. So we continue that tradition now in finding God in all things. How in the world do we find God in a pandemic, in a time of isolation, in a time of fear, in a time when we really don't have a clear picture of what's happening, not only in our local area, but in the world? So I wanted to talk about that a little bit and share some of my experiences. Maybe they've been similar to yours. In the very beginning of this pandemic, I found myself becoming extremely fearful. I'm not usually a fearful person, and also feeling extremely lonely. And I think part of that just came from the fact that I lived by myself and there were no people in my immediate proximity right around me living with me to kind of interact with. So I was fearful, I was lonely, and I was losing a sense of joy that I had had for so long. So those things really, really concerned me, and I felt like I was just kind of losing ground in my faith. So I started thinking, how can I find God in this time of deep, dark isolation and fear? When I started thinking further about that, I realized that there have been times in my life before when I've been in very dark places that it was impossible even to pray. Maybe you've been there too. And I found a couple of times during this quarantine, during the pandemic, that it's been hard for me to pray because I know God is with me, but seeing God clearly and feeling God very close to me just didn't seem didn't seem real. So how can I find God in this time of darkness, in this time of isolation? I think that there's no one clear way to do that, but I can certainly share what I've been trying to do. I think in order to find God in the dark times, you really have to see how is God speaking to me? And I've been trying to see that in the times that I've experienced to feeling lonely and to feeling fearful. Where is God in the fear? Where is God in the loneliness? And what am I learning? How is God trying to teach me through this pandemic and my living through it? And I think a couple of things that I've come up with are that um, in the loneliness, I realize that I have a real now longing for the connection with other people. And I find myself making more phone calls, becoming more connected in ways other than physically and being in physical proximity with people. And sometimes I see that I'm making more phone calls than I ever did before, and certainly appreciating those times when I'm connecting on the phone or on Zoom meetings with people. I think also that I'm experiencing God through the fear, in that fear is not a bad thing, I don't think, unless it stops us from our prayer, from our spiritual experience with God. So what I'm trying to do through this time of fear is to have God be with me, to experience God's presence in me, even in the fear. That's sometimes not easy to do, but that's what I'm trying to do. I think maybe all of you have experienced some different feelings through this pandemic, and maybe it would be helpful. It's been helpful for me. Maybe it would be helpful for you to think about, how is God speaking to me through these feelings, through my experience right now in this pandemic. You know, we don't all have to be productive. We don't all have to be doing things. Some of us just really need to be focusing inward and finding how God is working through us in this time. Sometimes in the time of darkness, it's almost like putting a seed in the ground and having it grow up from the darkness. And I really believe that through reflection and prayer during these times when it seems like we are disconnected from others, that God is working in us and through us to complete this beautiful work that God is asking of us now and then when the pandemic is over. I pray for all of you. Ask your prayers for me during this time, and I hope we will see each other soon in the physical sense and especially in church. God bless you all.